Hi, this tutorial is created by pm-prep35.com. We are an online PMP training website. Do visit our website to find a lot of free resources. In this session, I'm going to cover develop project management plan, which is one of the planning processes, and in fact the first planning process, and you can probably call the master process, wherein the project management plan is created. The project management plan, understandably, is one of the most important documents that the project manager creates, and he goes by it in terms of planning and executing. He has all his documentation for the project done in the project management plan, because most of the project managers time gets spent in the project management plan. The project manager mostly spends a good amount of time in planning. That's where he gets a control over the project, and he understands from various stakeholders what is required and what should be done, and he puts down on document, and the document is called as project management plan. The project manager should be really strong in planning, in anticipating problems and then the solutions for those problems, and also monitoring and controlling what he had planned for. So here we have a couple of terminologies like baseline. The baseline is nothing but what has been approved by the senior management. There might be a budget that has been allocated, that is the approved budget. There might be a schedule that has been documented by the project manager, and that has been approved by the stakeholders or the senior management, and that becomes a baseline. The baseline is mostly related to the core or the triple constraints you call the core project process, which is scope, time and cost. So you have a scope baseline, you have a time baseline, and the cost baseline. So the time baseline is also called as schedule baseline, which is nothing but your project schedule and the related documents. Then you have the scope baseline, which is nothing but your WBS and scope statement and the WBS dictionary. So then you have the cost baseline, which is nothing but your cost budget. So once these have been agreed, the project manager documents all these in the project management plan document as such, and then he puts in other plans also. There are about 10 knowledge areas when it comes to PMBOK 5th edition. So all those knowledge areas find a plan in the master plan called the project management plan. So within these plans, he writes his approach towards planning each of these knowledge areas, keeping the organizational constraints or the project constraints in mind, and also the customer's requirements. Like for example, in the risk management plan, what are the possible risks that he might face, and then how he plans to handle those in a broader level. And as he gets more details and he starts building the specific plans, the PM plan also gets updated, because the PM plan will have entries for each of these plans. So initially what starts as a one-line entry or a few lines entry in the planning phase, start of the planning phase, becomes lot more detail as lot more information gets available with the project manager. Understandably, the planning as such is an iterative process in terms of you build the subsidiary plans on the project management plan in an iterative manner. First you start off with the project management plan at a very high level. Then as you get more details, you update your project management plan or your subsidiary plans. When your subsidiary plans get updated, your project management plan also gets better details and refined details. So planning as such is an iterative process when you take the knowledge areas and the integration management as a process. Now, when you initially start with the initiating process, which is nothing but your create project charter, the very next process probably the project manager would start is the develop project management plan process. Basically because he has all high level details in the project charter, so he would take these high level details and try to build plans for each of the specific areas in the project charter. Let's quickly run through, with this understanding, let's quickly run through a few templates that I picked from the web. I searched for project management plan templates and I found few of them. So anything just being talked, instead of just being talked, if we can look at it in the form of template, we will have a better grip over that. So here is a project management template that I randomly picked up. So you can find the table of contents for this. You'll find an entry for scope, you'll have an entry for schedule, you'll have entry for communications, cost, procurement, quality, risk, human resources. Okay, and then you have one more template which again has the same sort of table of contents: procurement, issue management, risk management, communications, human resource, quality, budget, schedule, scope. Now, based on the project manager will tailor his template, the organizational template he might take, or he might have taken a template from a previous project which has been in the same area. He might feel certain contents might not be relevant, or he needs to concentrate on certain other areas. So he will tailor the template and use it as it is relevant to his particular project. So that's where the tailoring of the template, which is an organizational template he picks up, is very important to do. So the project management plan has again details or plan details for each of the knowledge areas. You can randomly pick up one more template and we can see the table of contents, and it doesn't vary from template to template. So again, the project management plan is a master plan which has all the subsidiary plans. It would be more like a link to all this subsidiary plans. There will be one-liners, refer, document in so and so location, and this document would be stored in a configuration management system, which might be anything like a TFS or BSS or Tortoise SVN. So you create structures like to store the documents and things like that, and store these plans out there in the configuration management system. Ideally, each of the knowledge areas, how you would handle, that is what gets covered in the project management plan. And planning and executing as such or iterative processes. So you would go about building plan and executing that particular plan for that particular iteration, and then you'd get, as you get more clarity for the next phase, you build the plan for that and then execute it. Because when you create a plan for the whole project, it might not be feasible in terms of, just doing the plan for the whole project and not showing anything to the client in the form of a deliverable. So to build deliverable in parts, normally an iterative approach is followed, and so in that approach you normally plan and then execute. So the planning and execution is an iterative process. So that's where the PM plan is done in an iterative manner in an agile project methodology. So with this basic understanding about how you start developing a project management plan with the project charter, and then how would you tailor from an template, already available organization template, when you look at the project management plan as an output based on how PMBOK treats processes. So ideally project charter is one of the main inputs. Then you have outputs from all the other processes in the knowledge areas of PMBOK. Specifically when you say outputs, this should be plans for the different knowledge areas as well as the baselines. So if you revisit any of the templates, project management plan templates, you can easily find there are baselines out there and also the plans, which are the most important contents of a project management plan. You can find issue log, risk register, and all these milestone list also as some of the entries in the PM plan. But then these are, you can call, not a specific, I mean, it's not, PMBOK doesn't treat these as an important entries within the project management plan. In other words, you tailor your PM plan based on your requirement. So somebody might hold milestone list as a project document, while somebody would make it part of the PM plan itself. Because issue log again is treated as a project document, which means that it will be a separate living document so that you can circulate it within the organization, while the PM plan again is a separate document which links to other project management plans and the baselines. So with that background, so PM plan again would have this other subsidiary plans or the knowledge area plans and also the baselines as the most important contents within. So project manager spends time building the plan through meetings, and he facilitates these meetings with different stakeholders. He uses his expert judgment to make the best decisions while he does the facilitation techniques. So these are some of the techniques that he follows during the planning phase. And the project management plan, since it has the baselines, it is used for the monitoring and controlling process to keep the project under control, to monitor if things are under control, and then make necessary changes in the process or ask for change control board intervention if something is going out of control or out of hands, or some baseline is going out of control. So with this background, let's quickly walk through the important points, or let's just walk through the inputs, tools and techniques, outputs for this particular process called develop project management plan. The develop project management plan is concerned with building the PM plan iteratively. Since PM plan is one of the initial documents that the project manager works on, it takes its inputs from the project charter. The PM plan also becomes input to all the planning processes wherein the subsidiary plans get created. Yeah, so when you see the processes in the PMBOK, you can easily see that all the planning processes, like for example, if you see the schedule planning process or the cost planning, it will have PM plan as the input, and the develop project management plan process as such has all these plans as input. So that means this process is iterative, or planning is itself iterative. As more information is available, the plan gets lot more clear and it is documented. So that's why it is iterative. So there is progressive elaboration involved in the whole process of planning. So the PM plan is one of the initial documents created by the project manager, because after initiating, and also since project charter is one of the inputs, the PM plan uses that input and builds the project management plan. So from high level details, you're trying to plan how to meet those high level details, or to get better clarity for each of those details specified by the or asked by the customer in the project charter. Planning and executing are iterative in nature, and this is very correct in terms of agile methodology, where you are dealing projects in terms of iterations rather than going by waterfall model. What needs to be executed has to be planned and elaborated in the project management plan. Yes, so you will have a main project management plan, and you will have smaller plans for each of the iterations. The PM plan also becomes the basis for the monitoring and controlling processes, wherein the baselines are referred and appropriate change requests are raised in case of any changes to the baseline. Yeah, so a baseline is something which is approved and the customer says, yeah, I am ready to pay you so much. So that baseline should not be breached. If there is a breach, or if you think you can't meet that baseline, or if there is a requirement which is going to affect, for example, your cost or your timeline, then you have to raise a change request so that your whole, this number which you have, like for example 1.0, which is agreed by, which is a baseline which is agreed, which has the schedule baseline is agreed by all the stakeholders. Now the customer comes up with a new requirement. Now your baseline would change. So now this, you cannot just go and execute or do it. You have to put this in a document, and you have to reversion it. For example, you give it 1.1. now your schedule baseline, instead of being 30 days, it's 40 days. Then this has to be approved by the change control board. The change control board can be the senior management or the mix of senior management as well as the customer. Once the customer has approved it, then you can go ahead and have this new baseline. That means that you can now go ahead and do this requirement, or you can execute this project as per the new requirements. Now inputs to this particular process. So project charter is one of the main inputs because it has all high level details. So when you get the project charter, instead of just going and starting to execute the project, it is necessary to plan for those items that is specified in the project charter. You have high level requirements in the project charter. You have high level budget in the project charter. You will have high level schedule in the project charter. Now you go and see whether you can, whether this is possible, or how would you execute this. This plan, you put it in a project management plan. So now that's where the PM plan gives you more clarity, and you are in a position to ask better questions to the customer. So that's where the PM plan is really helpful. So that's the very next process after the initiating process, which is create project charter, and then now you are going and planning, which is develop project management plan process. Outputs from other process. Main outputs are the subsidiary plans from each of the knowledge areas relevant to this project. So the first input is project charter. The second input is outputs from other processes. I would make it more specific and say plans and baselines from other processes or knowledge areas. Okay. The third input is enterprise environmental factors. So when you're planning, it's important to again take care of external factors that would affect this particular project. It might be in the form of work timings, government standards, regulations, anything that would affect the project's moving forward. So these are accounted as part of planning process, and it will give you more specific details to plan well. Then organizational process. This is where process assets. This is where your templates, project management plan templates, which is widely used in the organization, is taken up, and any specific lessons learned. Like for example, you're doing for a work for customer A, and this customer is known to be not that happy in his previous projects. Then these are documented somewhere. Then this gives you better idea about the customer, and you can factor in how to deal with this customer, how to ensure that you get constant feedbacks. So that can be factored in the communication plan, and you might have some specific formats wherein he gives his input after every iteration, and then you keep that in mind and proceed. So tools and techniques, expert judgment. Because planning is a very important process, you have to take the consent of subject matter experts, consultants. If it is a niche area, you might have to take consent from project managers who have worked in the similar area within your organization. You might have to contact a different business unit which has done a project in this particular area. So these are some things, certain things you use in case of expert judgment. Facilitation techniques might take the form of meetings or any surveys, or you bring multiple people from different backgrounds and make them sit and brainstorm for you, and you get the best option out of those people. It might involve group discussion, brainstorming, meetings, anything like that. So output of this particular develop project management plan process is project management plan. This document holds the other subsidiary plans, which is nothing but the 10 knowledge areas have 10 plans, and then there are process improvement plan, which is to improve the process that you are currently following in case of quality management. So those plans also find a place in the project management plan. You also write project tailoring guidelines, which processes you would follow, which you would not, which is relevant, which is not. You will have some sort of justification as to why you are following this approach. So these things get into the project management plan. So you would say what project life cycle you would follow, what sort of tools and techniques you would use. So any sort of alternatives analysis also will be part of the project management plan. So these are the outputs of the particular process. Now let us quickly walk through some of the important points that are covered in the PMBOK, and this would help you even give your best in the chapter test that we have. Project management plan integrates and consolidates all of the subsidiary plans and baselines from the different project management processes. Yeah, we have discussed this in length. So it has the baselines as well as the subsidiary plans. Baselines like scope baseline, time baseline, or the schedule baseline, and then the cost baseline. Number 2, project management plan can be re-baselined only through a approved change request. Yes, so the project manager normally creates a change request, or the change request is documented by the team member. The project manager reviews it. He puts it before a change control board, which is nothing but the senior management or the sponsor or the customer. They look at what are the impacts, what is the cost impact, what is the schedule impact, which is already documented by the project manager and his team, and they decide whether to take up this change. When they decide to take up the change, it becomes an approved change request, which means the baselines can be revisited, or the documents can be re-baselined, and the new project goes according to the new baseline or the new requirements. Now this process of change coming from the project manager to the change control board, getting approved or rejected. If it is rejected, the baselines would not get affected, but if it is approved, then there is a new baseline, and the project manager goes and executes this new baseline according to the new plan. So this is a separate process which is handled through change control board. So this also is based on the project management plan, because all the baselines find their place in the project management plan. So because if you have there is an impact on schedule baseline and you try to accommodate that, then you have to see whether time and cost are affected or not. So the master plan is one place where you can look at all this and you can make decisions. So the project management plan can be re-baselined only through an approved change request. This is applicable to most of the plans where you just should follow the change control process once things have been approved and baselined. Milestone list is a project document as listed in PMBOK page number 78. Yeah, so milestone list can be, sometimes when we create our project management plan, we put the milestone list as a section within the project management plan, but PMBOK treats that as a project document, because the plans are a separate document and the project management plan is the milestone list. Although it finds a place in the project management plan, it might be treated as a separate document so that it can be circulated for different stakeholders, because milestones are an important detail for everyone to know, so they might live as a separate document, so they are called as project documents. We will just look at the different these are called as plans because they have plan suffixed, and the plan will also have baselines. Here the project management plan has all these entries, and then you have the project documents. The project documents can